are on the bubble. So let's see how this develops. Opening hands are ready. There are some early announcements before the clock actually starts. Apparently we did lose all of our spectators though. I have to make a little call again. Or everybody's having dinner. Dinner's nice. So at this point we have the decklist for Peter Steenbeke. We can have a look at that. And I think that again we have an Esper control list. So the usual suspects, Scarab God, Cloud Blazer, but a slightly more creature-based approach with Gifted Etherborn, 4 Fatal Push, Ravenous Chupacabra, only 1 Golden Demise. So yeah, usual suspects, slight variations. And then for Steven we are on, I think, blue black control with a green splash, it seems. So curious to see what will come out of this list. How is everything going? We're now in round 7 of our 63 player event. So top 8 starting just after this round. The meta is heavily Esper Blink. That should not really be a surprise to anyone, I think, that has been involved recently with Gentry. There are some people that are making waves though. Tom is playing a cycling game, a cycling deck with Vile Manifestations and a cycling deck that works somewhat around Godpharaoh's Gift, but as a plan B. That's the meta right now. Aggro struggling very much, but that might also be because very few of the better players, let's just call them what they are actually playing aggro. With mono red and mono red both in the burn version and the pirate version, very underrepresented here, and not so many monument decks. So Kitra's Monument stayed on the bench for a lot of people, and those that did play it seemed to struggle and got stranded somewhere in the middle ranks of the tournament. Of course, this is a 63 player event that changes the dynamic quite a bit. Thank you very much. So that's Majesty for Steven should prove to be quite problematic for Peter. He has a Cloud Blazer to cast in the window where there can't be no counter magic. But will it be enough? Let's have a look back at that Liliana. She does get +1 to create a zombie. Sorry, just tuned in, bad connection. How's top 8 shaping up? Greets from Portugal. Hello from Portugal. Not sure who that is then. This is round 7 anyhow. We are watching Peter Steenbeke fight Steven Snyder for a slot in the top 8. There's a few people that are already locked in. I think that's Lars Meusen, that is Tom de Waal, and there were 2 other peoples that are locked in already. So I'm assuming the top 2 tables drew into the top 8? I don't know yet. Okay, we'll see. Okay. Dat gebeurt. Merci om het laten weten. So we'll get Amaury. Okay, I thought it was Amaury. So we had pretty amazing matches on stream already. So it'll be very worth it to check back what the stream was like. There will be highlights to cut to for later viewing pleasures. That was really nice up to now. We've seen a lot of Esper, so the meta game shifted quite strongly towards control. We've seen approach of the second sun and a lot of Esper in the feature match already, and that is what is floating towards the top of the standings here. Of course, that's also in part because most of the better players, more practiced players, have chosen to play an archetype that allows them to outplay people and get advantages that way. So the longer it takes for Peter to neutralize the Liliana, the more Steven will be in a dominating position. Fatal push, getting rid of a silly sailor, so that he can start going onto the offensive with his zombies. We also see the one-off forest in play there. I don't know yet what that is for. I assume it's for Vraska. One Liliana, one Vraska, yes. One Gonti and... I'm missing a rare, it seems. Yeah, I think I'm missing a rare in Steven's deck. So handicapping myself and only playing 3 rares, it seems. Also has recover in his deck, main deck final reward. So a lot of tools against the also feared Scarab God. And I'm afraid he might have forgotten to put Scarab God on the deck list. Bastian? Okay. So another Cloud Blazer for Peter. That's his avenue to put pressure on that Liliana's Majesty. These Planeswalkers are one of the main issues for decks like these, is that they do have a hard time mounting an offensive on board once they actually have to. If they have to put pressure, they're a bit slow. We saw that in previous matchups as well, where in previous matches we saw that as well, where people had a hard time attacking blue-white control decks fast enough to stop the approach of the second sun. Here Steven is riding that Liliana to victory. No, so the die indicates the number. Not sure, but did that Liliana just take up 2 instead of 1? So I have some spectators as already. Ah, Taze, yeah. Taze is the 4th person who drew into the top 8 already. Right? You drew into the top 8? Yes. Yeah. So Taze, Lars, Tom and Michael Milis, yeah. Are our 4 people already locked in top 8. Okay. Well, let's see if Peter finds an answer to the... Okay, Golden Demise he has the city's blessing. That'd be really funny if Steven had a removal or a bounce spell to respond to this. No. Loses all his tokens. To the golden demise. A very risky play from Peter here. Gifted Etherborn. So we see his more just generally good card creature based control. His Steven digging with his Supreme Will. I'm curious what he is digging for. Now we have the city's blessing. Ik weet het. Hm?
56, 16.
Okay, some judge interaction here. So Steven played Dusk Legion Zealot. As Steven keeps milling himself and making zombies. I think there needs to be a zombie somewhere, unless Peter already got rid of it. So that golden demise, even though it was a bit of a risky proposition, did work out pretty well for Peter here. As he now gets to, well, not finish him, but finish her, as in getting rid of that Liliana. Liliana Death's Majesty, probably the most played unexpected mythic in these feature matches so far. I think Steven is the 4th person we've seen casting Liliana. And apparently splashing for only that single Vraska. Sideboard. Yeah, sideboard doesn't have... it has Naturalize, okay. So that's what the sideboard is for. The one weakness for blue-black decks is not being able to influence enchantments or artifacts. Ravenous Chupacabra clears a path for the army to take out Liliana. As Peter keeps flooding the board, unafraid of any sweeper effects. Hieroglyphic Illumination for Steven to dig into something else, but what can he dig into actually? I don't think he has any sweepers in his deck. No, the golden demises are in the sideboard, so he can't even get to that. It's looking like quite a predicament for Steven here. Another Ravenous Chupacabra in an attempt to stabilize. Steven is still at a higher life total, but with the board presence that Peter has, he can only attack with a few creatures though. I know people that would have attacked with the Zealot as well to I would have attacked with the Zealot as well to at least bluff supernatural stamina. But that sort of depends on how well you think your opponent knows the format. So. Gifted Etherborns on the other side as well. And another, wow, it's Attack of the Dog. I think I should get a tune for Ravenous Chupacabra as well, like Rabid Dog. I missed what the other removal spell was. Let's see if we can move the camera perspective up a little bit. Nope, that's not the camera. That's the camera. There we go. We get to have a little peek at the graveyard then. As Peter has completely turned this game around from having to let an early Liliana Death's Majesty resolve to clearing that off the table, and now having a commanding board position against a player who does not have any sweepers in his main deck. Kitesail Booter. Or Freebooter. I was just gonna type Booter. It'll fail. Figure it out. There we go. Kitesail Freebooter. Didn't get to take anything from Peter's hand, which is extremely creature heavy. Bounces the sailor, takes 4 damage as Peter's life total is going up from the Etherborn. Steven already in desperation mode at this point. Ooh, but we have a Gentry. I'm not sure. I see an essence scattered there, but I don't know what the other 2 cards are. Sailor. I also didn't see what he ended. I think he took the essence scatter. Not the most exciting cards to get. Cloud Blazer would have been awesome here, or of course any of the rares, except Profane Procession, because that doesn't really do anything. Gifted Etherborn coming in, offering the trade with Gentry. But Steven will have none of that. And another Gifted Etherborn for Peter Steenbeek. Life totals are 6 to 17 with Peter in the capable of attacking for a lethal here. No, just for 5. We'll need a removal spell to actually attack for lethal. That is, of course, assuming that his opponent does not have removal spells of his own. I still think you should go for it here. And here comes the Alpha Strike. So it won't be for lethal. Unless his opponent starts blocking wrong. So at this point it's lethal. So let's assume Steven has final reward in his hand. Yep, final reward on one of the Gifted Etherborns. Not what the card is in the deck for, that's more for gods. And thus dropping down to 2. And Peter has another sailor, which gets essence scattered with the Gonti card. Again, a renegade map from Peter comes out. Steven needs some. A ravenous chupacabra is just what he wanted. And here we see Steven going onto the offensive even. So feeling very confident now. Peter sacrificing the renegade map in the upkeep, thinning out his deck and hoping to get a better draw out of it. His deck isn't that big anymore, and I don't think we've seen any of his rares yet, have we? Scarab God, Twilight Prophet, Vizier, Profane Procession. No, we haven't seen a single rare out of Peter's deck yet. While Steven already went through Gonti and Liliana. I don't think we saw any of the other ones. Firmly onto the offensive now. The game has drastically swung. For mana, Hieroglyphic Illumination. Let's see what Peter brings to the table. Dusk Legion Zealot. So even swarming the table with a bunch of tiny creatures is a scary proposition now. Steven is hellbent, does not have cards in hand. Peter at this point has, I think, 4 cards. Might be 3 there. So should have an avenue to attack back, having drawn a bunch of cards here. Nee, merci. Ça va. Ik weet het. So people are trying to entice me with delicious foods. But we'll have none of this. We are dedicated to the stream, to coverage, to you guys, to the people in the chat. All, what, 6 of you? How many people do we have right now? Gratis pakje. That's a cool name. Alright. So we have a couple of diehard fans in here. I suspect some people that actually made their account name based on other people in the chat, which is kind of funny. Okay, Steven keeps pushing against the flow here. It's crazy how 2 turns ago we were saying that Peter managed to turn this game around completely. He now has a gifted Etherborn, so we missed a full turn cycle, it seems. Gifted Etherborn of his own, so he will start to gain life again. Peter triple blocking here, so any one removal spell from Steven will be enough to wipe the entire board. On Peter's side, now is this Moment of Craving? Yep. Moment of Craving. That's a 3 for 1. That gains him 4 life. But he could stack the damage like that, so technically this didn't go wrong. No, that could have been cleared in its entirety. So Peter, even after drawing 4 cards, has nothing to bring to the table here, which is quite unfortunate for him. Dusk Legion Zealot. comes out. The state. As Steven is going for the final blow.
Moet je iets aan de rib houden?
So takes 6 damage, according to me. It's been a long day already. This is round 7. Either I or people are making mistakes. Gonti, Ether, Born, and 2 1-power creatures would be 6 damage, but. And Peter reveals a full hand of land. So Steven takes game 1 here. And our feature match has been selected for a deck check here. So while the deck check is going on, I'm going to take a very quick toilet break. I'll be back soon. I'll give you something else to look at. Still in round 7, so enjoy. The Sun Scourge. Yeah, the Sun Scourge. So that's a 4/4. Ooh. And a Buccaneers Bravado. Gives it +1/+1 and a double strike. Yeah, keep getting punished by combat tricks here. Cast out on the Neckbreaker. Ronnie now forcing Jelle to play the role of a classic control deck. Well, he would prefer to have it otherwise.
Kun je de graveyard al zien?
Ja, is goed.
Okay.
So, forcing Jelle to play more classic control deck. Like just playing... but then Angel of Penance. I think... No. Angel of Sanctions, is it? Angel of Sanctions entering the fray. Removed with Moment of Craving and the Pirate Pyroclasm. Buccaneers Bravado. Bravado played just to push through extra damage, putting Jelle down to 5. And now Ronnie aiming to top deck some burn to finish. I'm guessing, but he's extremely creature based. There's almost no burn in his deck. And we have Gonti and Jelle starting to swing back in this match. So this was looking really good for Ronnie, and with a few minor changes, it could have already been over. He has the Forerunner now, but he's still playing around an Essence Scatter from Yella, which I don't think is how he'll get there against this board. Drops to 5, 3-turn clock, keeps top decking lands though. Yeah, you missed the match. This is game 2. Yella won the first game. Two-turn clock. We've got insult and injury again, but that won't do that much here. Yeah, there's only two kinds of people on the world. Those that care for their basic lands and the normal ones. So sure strike to shave off 1 point of the clock, and Yella takes it 2-0. We're gonna check back with Yella. Okay, Legion Conquistadors. Okay, just a minute to address
Friedrich,
the person
and
in
again,
the chat.
as we've seen
13.
already,
This is round 7
firing
of our
this
event.
deck without
We are currently watching just a rerun of the
namesake of
Invitational
the deck, the
because,
Okitros
we have a
Monument
deck
in
check
play.
in the feature match. At
For
this
Ian,
point.
3 mana for a
This is,
lookout.
Peter is currently playing versus Steven. Peter
Usually
Steenbeek is
you
playing
want
versus
their
Steven
non-land
Snyder.
card to be there, but
and they're
I'm
playing
guessing
for a
that
slot in
Ian
the
is
top
pretty
8.
happy.
Lars
No, he still wanted a
Meeuwsen is
non-land
already in
card
the
to
top
be
8.
able to
Thijs
block
Wetens is
the
in the top
Even
8.
Wind
Tom de
Guide.
Waal is in the top 8.
Does Ian play
and
gold?
Michael Milis
Golden
has
Demise? I'm
locked his slot
afraid
in the top
I
8.
will have to find that
Four
out, as I
people
rather
still can get
not say that
a slot
before
there, and one of
our
these two,
players get
if there's
later
a
into
winner
the
to this match.
tournament.
Sorry for the stuttering audio there. So round 7, 4 people have already locked top 8, and we are currently waiting for a match between Steven Snyder and Peter Steenbeek to continue, but they're currently in a deck check. I hope that's the answer to your question. If you have any further questions, just let me know so I can explain further the Dude 13.
So, but chooses to bin it. Interesting. He's digging for something particular. Not sure what the card is that he just drew.
All of them.
Consigned
Ugly
to
ones.
Oblivion, yeah. And we have another lookout for Ian, which gets, wow, Essence Scatter on a lookout seems pretty drastic, considering that there's some pretty scary things that can come out of this deck. Friedrich gets a Cloud Blazer and starts reloading and digging further into his deck. Still plenty of time for him to find the monument to get things started, and do remember he still has the aviary mechanic in play to start the soft grind with a bunch of tokens. I think Ian just drew a Chupacabra. But but he's starting to feel a bit of the pressure, even though his defenses at this point are quite solid.
Okay, time for an update in the side of and the in the round 7 here. Apparently one of our players did in fact have an illegal deck. Well, not an illegal deck, but errors on his deck list. So there's some issues we need to fix, and I do think that will lead to a game loss for him, making this match 1-1 and going straight into the deciding third game of the match. So very unfortunate to see this happening at this point. But will be good to start then. Okay. So players get to re-sideboard here because this is now technically game 3 and there's another game loss dynamic here. Judges forgot to give back Peter's Teambeaker's deck apparently. So okay, so now we have an actual legal deck list for the match.
Oh, is that what was getting checked? Did you not have a deck list?
What?
Did you not have a deck list ready?
Yes, but there were cards missing. He forgot to note them down, and since that's possible for abuse, that is a game loss. So he...
So do I get the things or not? This should count. Everyone should go up a level.
Everybody...
What? This is
No, we
7
put
games worth
we
of
put him
losses.
down 1 level, so everybody is up a level.
Yeah. So does that mean we get one? We spread his boosters across everyone.
Don't go spreading people's things. Okay, no more off-screen talks. So we're now going into game 3, as we see people reconsidering their sideboard options here. Oh, apparently Dusk Legion Zealot is in Masters 25 as well. Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, well it looks like our players are getting ready to start their game. 7 rounds of Swiss is nice. Yes, we had 63 players, of which 5 people had a bye, so that's 68 virtual players, and starting at 65 we go into a 7-round event. So the biggest Gentry event to date ever worldwide, as far as I know. It's pretty exciting. I'm really happy to be here. It's a bit unfortunate to see this happening right now. Let's hope these players will get into a game quickly. Where's my buttons? I did make mistakes. I never run. I don't have fading. I love my life. I just want to scream. Don't know what screaming is. Nee. Okay, and we are ready for game 3. I assume these players will have around 10 minutes or even more time extension. That means they have 20 minutes to finish their game. As we see these players jump into it. A lot of chatter around again. Most people have finished their match here, and there's a lot of people waiting for the raffle that will take place after this round is over. There will be a bit of a break then to set up the top 8 as well. Okay, 6-card hand for Steven. Decides to keep Scry, sees a Dusk Legion Zealot there, ready to give him an extra card. And we're on our way for game 3 of the match, currently 1-1, with Steven getting a game loss for having a wrong deck list. Well, a deck list not matching the deck he's actually playing. Gifted Etherborn for Peter Steenbeke. Ready to start on the offensive. We do have the impression that Peter is better at forcing the game, and Steven here very firmly signaling that he has a supernatural stamina in hand. Let's have a look at if he actually has them. Supernatural stamina. No, I don't see any. Moment of craving though. Yeah, that would have been enough as well to make that a sensible attack. Dusk Legion Zealot for Peter now. As the most popular ugly little bastard ever. And we have Supreme Will to dig for Steven, looking for, not sure if it's mana or gas at this point. And we have a Ravenous Chupacabra to take care of the Gifted Etherborn. And no, the Zealots are being zealous against each other. Both bite the dust as a lone dog is left on the battlefield. Also, apparently in Masters 25. Wow, they really didn't have any inspiration for this set, it seems. Peter setting up his mana, gets a island with his renegade map, so opting not to take a plains. He is playing white, right? Yeah, he is playing white. But his white is a very small splash apparently. 10 swarms, 3 islands. Wow. Yeah, that was that's what those Gifted Etherborns kind of do to your mana though. They really demand a very high commitment to black. As we see Ravenous Chupacabra coming in, the same bluff as the one we saw with the Zealot here. So that moment of craving, I keep saying moments craving, is still hovering around in the deck, but Peter keeps playing around the card. Like I said, could be a supernatural stamina as well, but that would have been a poor play here. Gifted Etherborn for Steven, as it looks like it is his turn now to put pressure on. Fatal Push, a very nice promo version. I wonder if he got it from the goodie box here for Peter Steenbeke, taking out the Gifted Etherborn and allowing him to go back on the offensive. That Etherborn keeping him at his starting life total. Cycling Hieroglyphic Illumination for Steven, indicating that he is in fact digging for something, and I think he found his one of forest there. It's kind of funny, both these players splashing a color of a single basic land. For Peter, that's his Lonely Plains. For Steven, a Lonely Forest. and both doing it for the exact same reasons: the ability to fight back against enchantments and artifacts. Peter using Forsake the Worldly, Fragmentize as his white cards, and that's all. Where Steven has Naturalizes and that Vraska. So Hieroglyphic Hardcast for Peter drew him into some stuff with a final reward from Steven taking out the Gifted Etherborn. Now a Cloud Blazer for Peter to dig himself a little further into land, further develops his mana base, really important in these control matchups. That's a moment of craving. Taking out the Cloud Blazer so the Ravenous Doggo can keep pushing on the offensive. Do have the impression that Steven is starting to get a bit behind in the development. So Peter pretty deep into his deck already to only have 6 lands at this point. You can't see his grip, so yeah, 6 card, 7 card grip. Both players seem to be somewhat limited in the amount of mana they have available. I've seen a lot of people today playing what many would consider too few lands as a recurring deal. Sailor of Moons for Peter to stem the bleeding from Doggo Chupacabra. And now we have the serious cards. Gonti for Steven coming out. And again, doesn't seem to have too many crazy. Chooses not to take the Cloud Blazer there. I think he took Essence Scatter. These are reconsidering. No, took Cloud Blazer after all. Kinda agree. A lot of back and forth. So Duress taking Naturalize or Final Reward. Just knowing that the Naturalize is there should be enough. I'm not sure what Steven is so afraid of that he brought in Naturalize. There is the Profane Procession, but I don't think he's seen that yet. And that's the only enchantment in Peter's entire deck. So, well, and the treasures, but don't think he'd be too worried about that. Scarab God, after clearing a path for it, can come out to play, and now we have Scarab God online, 2 mana available, and a full grip from Peter. So people confused here apparently on a shuffle. Evolving Wilds for Steven. A bunch of options there as Steven looks for a solution to Scarab God, digging with a Cloud Blazer. Only has black mana up now, so no longer representing counter spells even. As Gonti comes in for 2 Death Touch damage. Peter, I assume with the trigger on the stack, will get back a Cloud Blazer of his own, a 4/4 Cloud Blazer that is, with the ability from Scarab God. And then scries one and steals one life, draws a card for the turn. And now we have Scarab God online, 4 mana available for another activation in game 3 here. A slot in the top 8 available to whoever wins it. Hell Doodle, you got to fight for your right to Gentry? So, a Ravenous Chupacabra takes out many Ravenous cards. Ravenous Chupacabra takes out the god. Peter choosing not to activate it in response. I don't know where the Cloud Blazer went to. For nachos. So I completely lost track of what's going on here. Suddenly the Cloud Blazer is gone, but the Scarab God is back. So did he Ravenous the Cloud Blazer then to push through damage? Life is like nachos, it has layers. Yes, and onions and cheese and all the juicy stuff in between. T-shirt won. Okay, in comes the scary Scarab God. Our players have just under 10 minutes left. Time was already called, but because of the deck check they have extra time. Let's see if in 10 minutes the Scarab God will manage to take home a game. Gentry offering up a trade here, but Stiffin choosing not to take it. Final reward. Final reward as an answer to the Scarab God. Does Peter have an answer? Taps 2 Pirates Ruses, Sirens Ruses. His Scarab God, it untaps, and that final reward touches the void. Nothing gets exiled. As Peter again, in response to the trigger, procures some extra zombies. Scries 2, as we see him grasping firm control of the game. Those gifted Etherborns are now 4/4 zombie tokens with lifelink, so they'll start buffing up his life again anytime soon. Anytime now, before soon, whatever, pick your phrase. Comes in for 9, of which 4 life linking. Steven just taking it as he untaps for what might be his last turn. Take into account the trigger that will steal life away from him as well at the beginning of Peter's turn. So that might be for a total of 5 with an end of turn activation and 2 activations in response to the trigger. And then it's going to be very hard for Steven to still find an avenue if he doesn't have an answer to the Scarab God and some more things in play right here, right now. I'm not sure who is hogging the priority here. Ravenous Chupacabra coming out for Steven. From the chat, can anyone tell me what the longest word in English is? I don't know, but I do know the longest official word in Dutch though. Essence Scatter neutralizes the Ravenous Chupacabra. And Steven unrelentingly keeping the attack up, even though there is a bunch of life linking power about to return from the other side of the battlefield. Peter brings back a Ravenous Chupacabra, and I think there might be a second one coming out now, getting rid of all Steven's defenses, and then punching through for 13 damage. 3 zombies, scry 3, and Steven scoops them up. That means Peter Steenbeke wins the match and has secured his spot in the top 8. There is a lot of things there is going to